The way I approach it is I split the principle into what I call relative non-duality and absolute non-duality. Having like a little reminder, is it still now? And just every time you do that, you're like, oh yeah, it's still now, you know? We don't know how it's going to unfold in the next second, but there's a little part of our mind going, nah, but I'm pretty sure it's like this and this and that. And, people go to war over that, over a conclusion. And so it seems to me like to be on the same page as reality, you need to be constantly in touch with this like unknown that's like right at the precipice of everything and right at the edge of everything as well. So it kind of like equalizes experience where spiritual experience, like I just lost all of this need to have fancy experiences. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, cool too. I'll just relate to whatever's showing up, not what I think should show up. Yeah. Do an intro and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, this is Craig Mallet. We've known him for about 4 or 5 years up here in the Sunshine Coast of Australia in Queensland.
So with non-dualities, it's like super trippy and tricky topic. Pretty much, as you know, here on the Sunshine Coast, there's like 400 bazillion spiritual people, and they probably all mention some version of everything is source and everything is one and all of this. But for me, I've always looked to, first of all, a pragmatic thing, and second of all, to something more direct, something more than just theory. It's all good to have concepts, but what do those concepts do to your life, and how do they change your life, and how do they change the way you live your life? For the most part, when I see people use these principles, it's like a kind of feel-good thing. It's like something hard has happened and they're just going, but it's all one, but it's all one, so everything's actually okay. And it's almost like a way of trying to escape the difficult thing that's happening. That's in a pop culture sense. Of course, there are plenty of people doing it well. And the nice thing about the internet these days is there's lots of people around doing this stuff that you can find. The way I approach it is I split the principle into what I call relative non-duality and absolute non-duality. Relative non-duality is something like a spiritual experience of non-duality where you practice, and something happens and you feel like you're absorbed with everything and whatever, and then that experience finishes and you come back to the mundane world and have to carry on with your life. So it's like an experience that can happen. And very specifically, I don't really teach, or I'm not really talking to this kind of possibility. I call it like a skill of non-duality rather than the reality of non-duality. It's a thing that can be developed along with any other skill. There are people who have better methods to get towards these kind of spiritual experiences and worse and all the rest. And as with all things like that, there's always a bigger fish. There's always someone who can teach it better and faster and so on and so forth. Every time I run into someone who's good at teaching this, I find someone who's just like next level and can teach it faster and whatever else. But the thing I'm talking to is specifically not that, because that is like a linear thing, right? It's not happening. You train, and then at some point this absorption happens, and you can refine that and get it deeper and all the rest. And the reason I'm not talking about it is, first of all, I don't have a particularly good technique to share with people because I'm not that skilled in this realm. I've met so many people who are way more skilled at transmitting this thing to people than I am. So I just leave them to do that. The non-duality I like to talk to is something that I was probably introduced to by Adyashanti, but have done various other explorations. But it's definitely sort of 80% of his influence that has led me down the route that I'm pursuing. And a great deal of it was specifically because I was kind of a numpty at these technical things. I trained for 20 years and hours a day, and people are saying, at the first level, you're meant to be having XYZ experience. I'm like, I'm not having that experience. What am I doing wrong? So I started going, well, maybe that's not for me, or maybe it is, or whatever. I just got uninterested in that development of skill set and started looking at what I would call direct reality, connecting to whatever is directly for you right at this point in time. And my direct reality at this point in time anyway is mostly mundane. Just the same plain kind of like sitting here at a table, talking to two guys on a screen, going down to the shops, buying food, the stuff most people identify with. And I just started looking at this direct reality and leaning into it. And so the orientation I take for non-duality is I really like two words to describe this orientation. Those two words are always and already. And that should all give you a sense how it can't be this skill progression because it's always happening, which means it's happening right now, and it's already happening, which means it's happening right now. So if you're not having one of those experiences, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is right here, right now, right in front of us all. But it does take a little bit of kind of reorientation of how you're looking at right now to lean into to kind of grasp and grok. And pretty much everyone I met can discover this in an instance. And then you've got this like ongoing work where you can deepen this relationship and perpetually make it better and clearer and all the rest. And that seems to go on without end. So another phrase I really like is that it's always as good as it can be, and it can always get better. So you have this always these kind of like weird paradoxes within this non-dual orientation, where the mind wants to say, well, if it's all already perfect, then why bother making it more perfect? But it definitely shows up as like, perfection getting more perfect. It's this really odd thing that doesn't make sense in the mind. So the way I lead people to this is with a few contemplations, and I like a few gates for non-duality. And the first and easiest gate I think that everyone can really appreciate and recognize and connect to is the gate of time. And so time, we can look at two big aspects. There is the moment, which changes. This moment is different to this moment, is different to this moment. And it's just like something like a movie, right? There's frames, but it's like there's infinite frames. And so I can't even grab one, but they're always changing. And this advice that we often hear is like live in the moment stopped making sense to me because it's like you try and go on the moment, it's like gone. It's like, well, I'll try again, it's like gone. And it's like, how do I live in that? It's like disappearing faster than I can even grok it. So it started to be a bit like, oh, why are we trying to live in the moment? That seems impossible. Uh, but better than the moment is I like this word now. And you can start with a simple question. Is it currently now? And when you lean into that question, not just academically, you don't go yes and kind of like then carry on. It's like feel it, feel into what it feels like, the fact that it is currently now. And when we ask this question, no matter when we ask this question, it's very clear that I can ask this question, is it now? And it's like, sure. And then like 10 minutes later, I can ask this question, is it now? And it's like, yeah. And like an hour later and a day later, and actually anytime I ask this question, no matter when I ask it, it's always now. And so we start to lean into this sense of, there's this sense of something that's always here, that's already here. And then you kind of start to lean into that a little bit and say like, well, can you get before now? Like see if you can burrow your way before now. And of course, any effort you're making to do that is inevitably happening now. And if you try to get after now, the same thing. You're like, I can't find where this now starts and where it ends. It seems to be perpetually now, no matter what I'm doing. And when you tune into that and lean into that, it's like, okay, there's this kind of like thing or no thing that we call now. I can't really perceive it. It's not an object of my perception, but it's perpetually here. It's always now. It's already now. And if you feel into that, you realize, I can't actually make it any more or less now than it already is. Like nothing I'm going to do is going to make it more now. Nothing I'm going to do is going to make it less now. Whether I recognize that it's now or not, it's still now. If I remember that it's now, now doesn't improve. If I forget that it's now, now doesn't get worse. So there's this like sense to this nowness that's kind of perpetual and unchanging.
Mm.
Yeah. And so you can just kind of lean into that and go, okay, that's really interesting. There's this whole aspect of my life, my direct reality that is unchanging, that has, it doesn't start, it doesn't end, it's always and it's already. And you can lean into that and you can connect to it. You can just get this sense of, I like just having like a little reminder, is it still now? And just every time you do that, you're like, oh yeah, still now. And something about just like that little reminder does something to our system. All the parts of our reality, like our body mind, that are changing right now, when you ask that question and those things relate to that changeless, they go, oh, hold up a second. There's this changeless aspect to the moment. And we're so caught up in the changing stuff that we kind of forget about this changeless stuff. Now, the changeless stuff doesn't improve, doesn't get better, doesn't get worse. Now doesn't get any more now, doesn't get any less now, as I said. But the stuff that is changing, the body mind, when it relates to that changeless, does something. It kind of shifts in an interesting way. When it changes gears, it kind of notices something that it might not have noticed before, and all of these kind of uh, aspects. And so you start to lean into that a little bit more. It's like the point of the non-duality that I teach is not to just go, oh yeah, and then carry on being lost in the changes. It's to go, well, what's that about? Let's go a little bit deeper into that. Let's kind of lean into that more. And you start to notice these qualities that now being changeless, without start, without end, is eternal. And if you lean into the eternal aspect of now, like already you can get this like vastness. It's like, whoa, like that's like containing everything and anything that's ever happened in my life. It's kind of like a womb within which my life has been unfolding. And there's nothing that's too big for this. No experience I can have can be big enough that now can't contain it. And then I start to lean into it a little bit more and I go, well, it feels like there's this past moments that have led up to this moment. But how do I know these past moments? What am I referring to now to know that there was a past? And suddenly there are just like memories and impressions and kind of mental activity that we refer to that seem to point to something that was prior to now, but I can only ever refer to them in now. Like I can only refer to even the start of this podcast, like right now. It's like, oh, right. Did that happen? I don't know. There's a memory of it happening, and these memories are constantly updating as if moments have disappeared behind me, but the only time I can ever refer to these things are now. I can't actually get out of now to refer to them. So there starts to be this sense of containment, but also inescapableness. Yeah, when you kind of lean into it, it's like I can't actually get out of now. No matter what I do, no matter how much I struggle, no matter how well I train or how deeply I train, I'm like stuck. I'm stuck right now. And I'll always be stuck and I can't get away from it. And you start going, oh, okay, well, what do I do about that, right? What do I do about the fact that I'm stuck now? Well, I better start learning how to relate to now if I can't get away from it, if it's this thing that's always going to be here. I better start like exploring my relationship with now. So a very simple practice you can do is any experience you're having. So like right now, you're having a visual experience. You're looking at me on the screen. You're having an auditory experience. You're hearing sounds, including my voice. Your experience, you can just like connect to, say, your vision and just ask this question. How does that vision relate to the now within which it occurs? And you kind of just wait and you see the vision actually shifts somehow. It like softens or it changes somehow. And you can do this with like, I'm confused. I don't know what Craig's talking about. Well, how does that confusion relate to now? And you kind of like start to link up moments and experiences with this changeless background within which they happen. And this is like a practice you can refine because so often there are like parts of us, like particularly gnarly parts, that aren't relating to now. They're like these parts, whenever we look at them, we're like, they shouldn't be like that. There should be some other way, but they're occurring now. So they're inherently part of this kind of present scene.
Mm.
So that's one way to look at it. And again, this now has some very interesting things. The inescapability when you lean into that aspect of it can really generate fear at one point. Like it's like, oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. And it's like, oh, I'm kind of stuck here and I can't do anything about it. No effort I'm going to make is going to take me out. And particularly if you're having a bad time, it's like that can like kind of get worse. It's like, but there's this like positive side to it as well. So the non-duality being non-dual always has these equal and opposite things, right? The yin and the yang are always there. Like they're not something outside of now. And so as well as this like deep terror that can start to appear if you lean into the kind of inevitability, the inescapability side of it, there's also like a deep peace. You're like, wait, now it doesn't change. Like I can't assault it. I can't damage it. I can't hurt it. I can't do anything. It's not like I can like stab my way out of this moment or shoot my way or AI my way or whatever. It's like it's completely indestructible. It's like truly immortal now. Like you can't do anything to damage it, to hurt it, to lessen it. It's and so there's this like peace aspect that's there because it's like not changing, it's not born, it's not dying, it's not altering in any way. It has this sense of like, oh, it's actually like peace is always there. It doesn't matter within your body mind experience how hectically crazy it can get, and it can get hectic and crazy, that peace isn't a thing that appears within the body mind. It's like the backdrop of now that the body mind is happening within. And so you like the more you connect to that, the more it's like, oh, that piece is there. I don't actually need to try to find it within the body mind experience anymore. I don't need to like try and change my body mind experience to be having this like peaceful experience. I can just be like in the worst, like most confused, whatever painful moment. And if I'm practiced at connecting, remembering that it's now, I can just go, yeah, there's all of that happening, but when is it happening? And you go, is it still now? And it doesn't necessarily change this stuff, but you do get this effect that when these experiences, especially difficult experiences, like connect up with this context, let's call it, of now, this changeless, eternal, ever peaceful, sort of terrifying context, then something shifts. And it started to feel to me like the moment that connection happens, or that reconnection, or, remembering, right? That's what the word mindfulness is originally translated as, is to remember. It's like, oh, remember that this experience too is an expression of the eternal now. So you can ask another question. You can ask this question, is whatever's happening right now, whatever you're sitting there, you're listening to this, you're whatever, maybe you're aching, maybe your mind's like really confused, maybe there's all sorts of weird thoughts happening, maybe you're dealing with something particularly difficult, or it's all really nice, whatever. It can be, there's a spectrum of human experience. Whatever it is it an invalid expression of now? And there's like, you can't sincerely say that this thing's an invalid expression of now because it's happening now. There's no part of our present experience that can possibly be an invalid experience of now simply because it's happening. And so you start to like clue into that, like, right, there's this experience happening, and within this field of experience, as well as that experience, there's maybe another experience in the mind going, that shouldn't be happening. I really wish I could do something to make that change. And without connecting both of these things up to the now, we're kind of stuck in this battle between these two things. And I say stuck in a very particular way because it doesn't mean we have to resolve this battle. We just have to notice that even the battle is a totally valid expression of now if it's happening. So you start to go, okay, right. Well, that seems to basically resolve every single problem I have, including the fact that I think I shouldn't have problems, because it's not like problems are an invalid expression of now either. And the more you connect into that, the more the mind, the body mind gets this habit of like remembering that. And it becomes interesting because it's more difficult to remember that when things are good. Because when things are good, we tend to be absorbed in the body mind expression of that's happening now, and where it's good. Well, why would you look elsewhere, right? You're just like, you're not interested because something nice is happening. But when things go bad, that's when you start scrambling, right? Oh, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to get away from this? And when you start asking this question, it can be really interesting because the bad moments actually become much easier to connect to now than the good moments because they kind of like prompt the part of the mind to like try and find some resolution. And you can go, oh, yeah, there's always resolution as soon as I just remember that it's now. And it connects the whole thing up. And it kind of starts to seem like as soon as the changing thing is connected to the changeless part of direct reality, that that changing thing doesn't like disappear or just turn into something nice, but it does seem to shift into whatever its natural cycle is. Kind of like, oh, it's like on its proper evolutionary path now. And that might mean it needs to get more intense for a bit before it gets less intense. It doesn't kind of guarantee anything, any kind of particular experience, but it does start to feel like everything's where it's meant to be. Everything's doing exactly what it's meant to be doing. All the changes that are happening are the perfect changes for right now, however intense or not intense they are. And this kind of sense sinks in. And so it gives you a real capacity to kind of accept where you're at and what's going on for you at this point in time. So that's like the first part of non-duality. But if we're kind of listening to the word non-duality, it's like non, not, and duality is two. And we still have two here. We still have changing stuff and changeless, right? So we can actually take it further. It's like, how can the two resolve into one? We've got to find a way to marry the two up. So this idea of like asking one to relate to the other is very interesting because it can start to do like a relative bridge where it seems to make a stronger and stronger connection. But that's still not non-dual in an absolute sense. That's still a relative thing that with time, you practice, you practice, you practice, more of your changing moments get connected up to the non-changing aspect of your life. Sure, you can develop that to whatever degree, but it's still not non-duality, right? It's still duality. It's still a thing that progresses over time. So we need a few other bits and pieces. The next bit I like to talk to is this sense of local versus global awareness. Local awareness is the part of our awareness that shifts and moves. So, I can become aware of my hand, I can become aware of you on the screen, I can become aware of my own voice, I can become aware of thoughts in my head, so on and so forth. The local awareness can kind of like zoom in and zoom out and it moves around, right? It's not kind of steady. We can try and there's methods to train it to be steady, but it's never going to stay permanently steady. You can like maybe even for a few hours or a few days, like keep it on one spot if you're really well trained. But the moment you get back to your life, it's like, oof, it's moving around again. So it has a natural dynamic to it. It has a natural movement to it. And the global awareness is the other aspect of awareness. It's the part of awareness that doesn't move. Again, it's always here. It's already here. This is the part of your awareness that knows what is happening to you at any point in time. So, let's say you get up really fast and you had a head rush. I don't know if you guys have had this experience. I'm sure most people have at some point in their life just got up too fast and went, whoa, and like everything spun and you like had no idea where you were and you lost sense of time and space and your mind just goes, oh, what's going on? And it's like total confusion. How do you know that was happening? Right? There's something that registers that event. And then you have like a deep sleep and you wake up and you go, whoa, I just had the best sleep ever. I didn't dream. I didn't feel my body. I didn't perceive my mind. There was just nothing, pure nothingness for like 8 solid hours. How do you know there was nothing? Something even registers that nothing, right? Some part of you is aware that nothing happened. That same part of you is aware of what's happening to you right now, and it's aware of what's happening to you at any point. You get confused, it'll just register confusion. Pain, cool, we'll register pain, There's this part of awareness that just effortlessly registers whatever happens in your life. There's no struggle to this registration. It's just like someone punches you in the face and you're bleeding out, and it's like, it'll just, yep, cool. Punch to the face, huge pain, it'll just effortlessly perceive that. The local awareness might be struggling, like I don't want to pay attention to that. It wants to move over here and get away from that difficulty. But the global awareness is just like, also aware of the local awareness moving around, right? Because how do you know the awareness is moving? And so there's this kind of, again, this backdrop to the awareness that's like always there, it's already there, it's already effortlessly registering whatever's going on in your life. You don't have to do anything to make that work better. It's simply the case at any point in time. Um, it doesn't really speak to what the local awareness and what the arrangement is, because it'll just effortlessly, like you have someone break into your house and start stabbing you, it's just going to register that as if it's just as easy to register as like having a nice meal or whatever. It's like this part of us that just doesn't change, and it just picks up like a like almost like a historical recording of just every moment that happened in your life. And it's really funny for me because the newest people that come to my work, you sit in a meditation and you've got some instructions of like a relative thing to do. And, maybe it's like sit down and you're meant to visualize a ball or sit down and pay attention to your breath. And they'll say, oh, it didn't work. And I'll say, well, why? Well, because when I sat down, there was this moment where it was clear and then it became unclear. And when it was unclear, and they just like describe perfectly what happened for them. But there's some part of their mind going, it wasn't meant to happen that way. It was meant to happen some other way. And that's also kind of being registered. But like this global awareness just picked up whatever happened. Confusion, wandering mind, on a distraction for too long, kind of lost for a bit. It'll just like register lost for a bit as well, and whatever experiences go along with that. So it's just this kind of like unconditional backdrop given moment. It's like prior to whatever's happening in the moment. It's something that's always there. It's already there. It's kind of already registering whatever's there. And it doesn't have preference. It doesn't need the thing being registered to be a fancy spiritual experience, right? It doesn't need it to be even a unity experience. You sit there feeling totally separate from the world, totally lost and confused, like, yep, registering that too. It's really, truly unconditional. And we can connect to this thing. We can notice it. We can recognize it. We can't perceive it. It's not like an object that is, oh, I sat there and I looked and I found it. Oh, there it is over there. It's not like that. It's almost like what's doing the perceiving. And so when you tune into it, again, the body mind shifts. It goes, oh, this awareness, like effortlessly registers any and every event. Can't make it work any better. I can't make it work any worse either. Like, I don't need to do anything, no particular skill. I don't need a dantian or anything like that to make it work. I don't need to be in any level of connection. It'll just like register, yeah, blockages, and you can't perceive that as well. It'll just register everything, and it's always here. It's already here. Now, the interesting thing is when you tune into this, the fact that there is awareness, and you start to connect that awareness to what you're aware of, there starts to be this sense of immediacy. Like if I look out my window now and there's like a tree way over there, um, relatively speaking, maybe 200 meters away. But the experience of me seeing that tree is very immediate. It's like right here already. And I don't have to do anything to make it immediate, but I can notice that it is immediate. Like what gives it a sense of depth is within the vision, because I shift, it looks like there's depth perception and there's part of the mind kind of doing calculations or whatever, trying to work out how far away it is. There's feelings and such, but the presentation of that experience is immediate. Like it's already right here. It's already in awareness. I don't have to like try and bring it into my awareness, even if it looks far away. That looking far away is already right here. So you start to see that what it started to look like to me, I should say, is that all of these scenes shaping up, you've got five senses, feeling, smell, taste, sight, and sound. All of them are like that awareness, almost like condensing itself into all of these experiences. So that global awareness condensing itself into like this apparently moving local awareness, but it's all very immediate. It's all already within the awareness that doesn't have to like go and grasp it or anything like that. It's here, it's already, it's always the case. And so we can start to tie these principles together. How is this global awareness the same as the now we were just talking about? And it's like, whoa, if I look, it's like indescribably the same thing. I can describe a different facet of it, but it's pointing to the exact same thing, the ground within which all our experiences are happening. And again, this ground is prior to any particular experience happening. It doesn't matter if you like level up to level 100 million sage that runs the whole universe. It's going to happen within this context. It can't happen anywhere else. And you get to there, by the way, what goes up must come down, and like, and you move away from there. And that too, the descent into hell will just happen in this context of the aware now. And the aware now really has no preference about what this looks like. Um, so then the third avenue I take to connect to the same thing is the avenue of space, of kind of location. And for this, we actually want to go into the senses. So I used vision. Some people find other senses a little bit more accessible. Um, but the vision is really, for me, super obvious because it has clear boundaries. You know, I'm looking at you on the screen. The center is focus. As I bring my awareness to the edge, the local awareness goes to the edge, and like my hands get blurry as they get out here. And then if I take them further away, I just don't see my hands anymore, right? So if I'm talking about direct experience of vision, at some point, there's the experience of vision, there's the periphery of that experience, and then beyond that, there's no more experience. I have to start referring to other senses to know where my hands are. But referring just to vision, this kind of directness, they've disappeared. They don't exist anymore. There's no more visual experience of them, right? Um, and this is really interesting. So to talk a little bit to the Western part of our mind, we have light bouncing off a monitor, coming to the eyeball, getting like refracted to the back of the eyeball, getting transformed into an electrical signal, taken through the occipital lobe into the brain, transformed again with a whole bunch of mental filters, and then this image is presented to consciousness. Where is that image happening? Right? We can say in our brain, but then I just referred to like an idea and a thought, a concept. If I refer just to the image, where is it happening? And it starts to feel like that image is kind of just floating in a void. And that void, as soon as I get beyond the periphery, extends infinitely. It's not like there's void, 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 and then like another experience of vision. It's like infinite, above, below, left, and right. And if you kind of lean into this, it's like also kind of, you know, if my vision is floating here in this void, it's also kind of this side of the vision and also behind it. Right? So the vision kind of happens in the center of this void in a way. Then I do the same thing with my hearing. There's the immediately obvious sounds that you can hear my voice. There's the periphery of these sounds, that some faraway sounds, cars or whatever, birds, hopefully if you live somewhere nice. Um, but then at some point there's no more sound. Like I just, no matter how far I hear, even if I like train some sort of like extra sensory perception where I can hear all the way to Brisbane, at some point it ends. I'm not hearing every sound that's ever existed in the universe. It stops at some point. And beyond that is no more sound, which a word we use for that is silence. And this silence is everlasting. It's always there. I don't need to do anything to make it be there. It doesn't change whatever I'm hearing, just like the lack of vision doesn't change whatever I'm seeing. It's always there. It's already there, even if I'm not noticing it. And it has this sense of void or absence. It goes on forever. And it doesn't have anything in it. Like there's no perceptions in it. And you can do the same with your feeling, felt sensory experience. You can feel my body, the chair, the ground. I can feel the kind of ambient temperature of the room and maybe some vague sense of space, but beyond that, there's no more feeling. I can't feel like four doors over. And even if I've trained myself to be able to feel that far, maybe I can't feel at some point I can't feel beyond that, right? Um, and so all of the five senses have this same thing where there's like the center of that experience, which might be the part that's in focus or the obvious. I like to call it the foreground. The peripheral, which is the kind of background or the vague aspect, and then nothing, no more experience. And the same is going on in our mind if we look. You know, I can imagine a Ferrari at some point, that imagination stops and there's no more imagination. Same with imagining any of the five senses and imagining a smell, a taste, a sound, a feeling. And then there's like abstract knowledge where I know the sun's going to come up tomorrow, something like this. And those thought forms also kind of exist within this void. And now, as you get more into that realm, they become way more vague and way more difficult to define the boundary. They're more young, they're not as manifest, so they don't have as clear a definition, but they still very clearly exist within a void. They, and so the whole body mind experience, whatever's going on, whatever stupid thoughts you're having or whatever, is kind of floating in the center of this infinite space of void. And so we can then tie this to the other two things. Is that void much the same as the now that is aware? And you just kind of like lean into it. You don't want to think about it. Like as soon as the rational mind starts turning, this like the awareness just zooms in on that and like forgets the actual void. It's like, oh, a void, you know, that's an infinite black or whatever, you know, and it can start trying to picture the matrix infinite white or infinite black or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. You know, you need to get off the edge of all these experiences and notice that you can't perceive it, right? You can't perceive non-vision. You can't perceive silence. It's not perceivable by its nature. It's not like there's something to look at. It's very specifically that there's nothing there. So there's like nothingness surrounding any experience on all sides. Still, again, we've got this duality there, this nothing, and then there's something. The somethings look like they're changing, the nothing looks like it's still. But we can keep leaning into it, and you can start to get this sense of the great, aware, eternal now spaciousness, and then all the bits and pieces happening within that spaciousness. Yeah, whatever it might be your body, mind experience, or maybe you can tune into some experience I'm not even aware of and I haven't had, but whatever it is, it's going to be occurring within this context. And then you can start to almost like invite the emptiness, the void in, like let it penetrate through whatever experiences you're having. Kind of feels like silence is invading and filling. And if you let that go deep enough, you'll run into the fact it's like, you know, in science, they keep zooming in and they're like, oh, the atom is the last thing. But if we zoom in closer, there's like space between even the atom bits. And if we zoom in closer, there's always space in between stuff. And it's the same with your experience. If you keep going, you just run into more space. And it seems like all of this show of the body mind is inherently empty. Now, if that's not happening for you, if you're not noticing that, it's really, really crucial to connect to what you are noticing, because then you can just get in your imagination and start fabricating things, and the whole thing zooms in on that fabrication and you lose the point of it, right? So you need to come back to this, like, is it now? And start to ask these questions like, are all these perceptions a valid expression of now? Is there any aspect of these perceptions that aren't, you know, that aren't already aware the moment they appear, right? The fact that they appear makes the awareness there already, right? Immediate, without break. So it starts to look like the awareness is coming from within them. That it's like just shining out of them. It's like awareness shaped up as my voice right now, the feeling of sitting on the chair right now, the vision of the computer and the laptop, the sounds that you're hearing, whatever. It's like awareness is kind of like condensing itself into all those shapes, and that condensing form is like perpetually shifting. It's shifting as my voice changes. It's shifting as you see different things. And notice that the shape it can take is just like whatever is your current reality. It doesn't have to take like a fancy spiritual shape. It doesn't need to be shaped like having like a big energy experience. It'll just shape itself up as the most boring, mundane thing in the world. It'll just be like, "Whoa." Reality currently shaped as Craig trying to work out what vegetables he wants to buy for dinner tonight, you know. And it doesn't lessen itself by doing this. And it doesn't make itself more by having like a fancy experience. So the more I've connected to this perspective, the more it like equalizes the experiences. It's like one's not better than the other because they're all inherently the same thing. They're all inherently an expression of now shaping itself up, however it might be shaped up. So it siphons away this sense of needing for there to be something else than whatever's right here, right now. The paradox being that one of the things that can be shaped up is like a longing for something better. Actions being taken to make that thing, that better thing appear. So it doesn't mean I stop training. Or maybe it does, who knows, right? Reality will shape itself however the damn well it pleases. But it's like it starts to be something like what you might call God's will, how this reality is being condensed at any point in time. And this kind of like turns into a question of identity at some point. Because most people, when I've done this kind of like walkthrough, like I've just done with you guys, most people are doing what you're doing and just like, yep, cool, grokking it, very clearly connecting to it. But it's like, what then? What are the implications? And one of the clear implications is that there is a thought or a belief structure somewhere in our mind that assumes a distinct little avatar me, that there's like a little Craig behind there, something perceiving all this. And that thing, it's definitely like a feeling that can shape up in reality. It can feel like that's the case. It can seem like that's the case. Reality like shapes itself up into these feelings all the time. But is it the actual case? And when you kind of connect to this directness and you kind of do a metaphorical about face to look at what's looking at the body, mind, and the nothing, there's just like nothing. There's more of that nothing. There's more of the now. And so it can start to feel like now is pouring itself through the body mind to see itself in its various shapes. And so a question, again, these little contemplative questions that I throw up is it possible that who you really are is more like the eternally aware now? And again, we don't want an answer with the mind. You want to viscerally lean into this. And this has implications because if you're sincerely leaning into this, not just concluding with the mind, you can't help but look at anyone and everything appearing in your body mind as an expression of that too. You can't help it. And so if there's like a stupid person in front of you, for whatever reason, like saying they're enlightened when they're clearly just like locked into like a thought form and being deceived by that, it's like, oh, that's still eternity shaped as that person looking like they're deceived. And it's like, do I need to convince that person? No. Why? It's like reality doesn't need to convince itself of its own existence, just as you don't need to be convinced that you're perceiving something. People can come along and say, you're not perceiving stuff. It's like, but very clearly I am. Like you can argue whatever you want. The very fact that I'm hearing your argument is the fact is like validating that there is perception. The thing that gets tricky is the conclusions that we make. So the local mind, the rational mind, really wants to like notice all this and then conclude. It wants to form up, therefore, because eternity is looking through me at itself, therefore, something. I can act like an idiot or whatever, you know. It comes up with these conclusions, and those conclusions are always inherently not the truth of the greater situation. They can't be, because they're things that just appear for a moment and disappear. And that goes for feelings of ultimate truth. And this is where it starts to get tricky, because when you do this, these feelings of like ultimate, oh, that's ultimately true, kind of shape up that weren't there before, right? And because they've appeared, they're just one of the forms that can appear, and they can disappear at some point too. And this happens regularly. People will just have like a moment of noticing this, and then the feeling of ultimate truth just vanishes. And they're just like, what happened to my ultimate truth? I was just perceiving everything as like the one, and now that's gone. Something went wrong. I better like scramble about it. But that too is a totally valid expression of the non-dualness of now. So when you like really lean into this in a sincere way, one of the things you've got to be alert to, vigilant of, is the concluding mind, because it will try and it will try and it will try and try, and it will probably succeed, because reality shapes itself up as convincing itself that it's not reality. It's very good at that. It seems like that's the thing that makes reality go, because if it's just remembering itself, there's nothing to do. As soon as it forgets itself, it'll do plenty of stuff and life will happen. And so it's like the more you lean into this, the more like the way reality can shape up is very infinite and very vast. And it stops being necessary to try and capture it in one shape or another. In fact, the attempt to capture it, where does that even come from? The intent to try and seek, where does that come from? The seeking feeling, where does that come from? It's all just like reality shaping itself up as all these thoughts and feelings, and they don't even have to go anywhere, because however it shapes up, even if it's like total confusion, checked out unconsciousness, it's still valid. It's still a valid expression of reality. So that's this kind of like bigger picture. But within that, each of us have, first of all, our own perspective. So my experience right now, recognizing the changeless to some degree or another, recognizing my vision, the sounds I'm hearing, the feelings I'm feeling, the smell, the taste, and whatever's going on in my mind, don't even ask, all sorts of stuff, is not at all the same as what either of you are experiencing. Your experience has your own perspective of vision, if it's even there. Maybe someone listening to this is blind and is just like, I don't know what that experience is like. It has its own feeling sense, it has its own taste sense, its own smell. Like it's all very, very unique. Each of us, like the way reality shapes up from our unique perspective, is totally unique to you, and no one else has that. And what tends to happen in the spiritual circles is someone comes along and goes, this is my perspective. And someone else goes, well, I'm not having that perspective, so there must be something wrong with my perspective. And I'll just like outsource all my agency to this person and assume that their perspective is the only perspective that can exist. Or they do the reverse, where I'm seeing this, therefore that must be the ultimate truth, and your perspectives are all null. I'm not going to listen to any of them. Right? So there are all these like really tricky hooks where the deeper you get into it, it's like the easier it is for the mind to kind of grab these conclusions and these principles and these ideas and kind of like distort them for its own use. Which is very, very funny from that big perspective. It's because like reality is shaping itself up as this little local mind thinking it's running the show. It's like, cool, reality shaped itself up like that too. Okay. It seems to be happening, you know. Let's not go to war with it. So this is all a way of like just leaning into what's already there for anyone, right? I'm not kind of pointing to some elaborate experience. I'm not pointing to some, you know, oh, the vibrations have raised and now I'm seeing with 18D frequency, whatever. I'm like, it's not about that. It's just about the directness of what's in front of you right now, and just like really leaning into what's there in a very sincere way. And it's almost, there are all these little phrases that I picked up along the way. Most of them would be from Adyashanti, but I'm sure he picked them up from someone else anyway, and I can't really remember where they all came from. But these little phrases are really nice. They're kind of like little like reminders of stuff. So you have phrases like absolute cooperation with the inevitable, what's appearing right now, right? How could I totally cooperate with it? And then we can use our logic because the Western mind has this sense of logic in it. It's really good to use for this, but you've just got to like not stop with it. It can't just land on a conclusion. Like use your logic to go past your conclusions, to well, like way beyond the conclusion. And so one of the things I noticed with my logic, with this logical mind, was that I've had so many times in my life where I've been like, that's it, this is the ultimate perspective, I'm in it. And then like something will shift and I'll be like, ah, that was just me being an idiot, actually. Like has nothing to do with that. But from within it, it was impossible to tell. And so we can always have this like, is it possible that's still happening right now? And you can't help but go, well, I don't know. Maybe. It seems clearer and clearer, but maybe there's more that's going to reveal itself. And then that will seem like the clearest thing. But then something else reveals itself, and that seems like the clearest thing. So you get into this like, rather than feeling more and more free of illusion, it becomes more and more apparent how deceived you are to the point of like, I don't even know if it's possible to be undeceived. Does life even work without this deception? I don't know. And if you take this logic to its sincere ends in every single path, the thing I found over and over again is the thing you run into at that end of the path is I don't know. I don't actually know. Am I perceiving the present reality clearly? I don't know. I've got my vision. That's all there is. But again, we kind of talked about how the vision was built from a scientific perspective. It's a mess. I don't know if I'm seeing you guys. I have no idea. Like, is my brain just inventing you and presenting it in consciousness? Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a reality behind the vision. It seems like there is, but I don't know. Same with my feelings, same with my taste, my smell, same with, all the sounds, same with everything I'm thinking. It's like the only thing reliable about it is that it's all completely unreliable. It's like totally like, I don't actually know. But it's all I have. It's all I have at any point in time. And so for me to look at this unreliable, seemingly unreliable body mind, I don't want to conclude that it's also not reality because it is apparently the only reality I have in front of me right now. But I get to this real sense of like, is it the whole of reality? It's like, don't know. Is it accurate reality? Like, don't know. All I've got is it's reality as I perceive it. And there's no way to like get around that reality to check like what you're experiencing, Rowan, or what you're experiencing. Even if I did some like crazy meditation where I could project my consciousness into you and perceive from your perspective, it's still my experiencing. And that experience still suffers from all these filtering things. So we come back to this like, don't know, don't know, don't know. I don't know actually. And when we lean into that, when we let that I don't know into all of the things, that I don't know, that mystery starts to seem awfully a lot like now. Like that now that's aware, that mystery, that I don't knowness is kind of like shaping itself up as this field of perceptions. And when we like really lean into that I don't knowness, we look at our vision and we say, well, is this actually a monitor? And is that actually a tree? Like, I don't know. And when I let go of the certainty of that, something shifts. Maybe it just continues looking like a plain monitor, but it's a plain monitor that's now free to be not a plain monitor in the very next moment. And it's a tree that's free to be not a tree in the next moment. And so you get this sense of like the world being liberated to be exactly as it is, whether it's showing up mundane or as spirits or as a stupid person or as like whatever bizarre shit's happening on the news these days. Like it's all valid. It's all fine. And I don't know what any of it is. It's just like what it seems to be appearing like. But this isn't a really nice functional way to run your life, right? I don't know if you guys saw Jim Carrey kind of got into spirituality at one point and then started running
Yeah.
around telling everyone they're nothing and they don't exist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like from a pragmatic level, that just like didn't go well. It just like annoyed waiters and everyone was like, dude, you're weird. Um, so we still need this kind of like relative level of assumed knowing. Like I just kind of got to assume that you're two distinct people that are out there in the world somewhere. Um, because if I sit here telling you you don't exist, well, it's just like pointless. It doesn't achieve anything. And most of that would be happening just to satiate some like little part of the mental mind trying to wrap itself around concluding about this, right? Whereas if you can just release that, you can just let things be as they are, and you can kind of end up in this like, oh well, I'm back to just doing my life. I just go about making decisions and everything else. It's just that the tone has changed. It's like shifted 5 degrees. And there's like, I still have to have all my, reality shapes up as me needing to make decisions between this and that all the time. Reality shapes up as issues and problems that it looks like Craig has to navigate and solve all the time. That doesn't seem to go away, not yet. But yeah, this word intimacy I like. There's an intimacy with it where there's like progressively less and less resistance to whatever the shape is not because something was taken away from it, but rather because it was just seen from this perspective. And the fun thing that has done for me is like it like all of my practice got liberated. It was just like, oh, I don't actually need to do any of this if I don't want. It's not making it any more now. It's not making reality any more reality, but I still find myself showing up every day. It's like, that's odd. Well, reality wants to shape itself up into Craig practicing and pursuing depth in this stuff. Okay, cool. That's for me. That seems to be what my life's about at this point in time. But it like loses any sense of anyone else needing to do that because all of reality is liberated to do what it likes. So if people are just like, I'm going to do something else, it's like, cool. That's like reality shaping up as that. And people like reality shaping up as like, I want to ask you a question about this. And then me trying to answer it is also how it shapes up. So like it kind of just makes everything, I don't want to say flow because that's a tacky word, but it seems like it flows easier. And I end up with this like, seems like this, but I don't know. Seems like this today, but I don't know. Seems like it's hot outside, but I don't know. And there's these kind of like sense of rolling conclusions that are just like the best conclusion I can make at this point in time, but they're recognized as being not at all absolute in any way. They could dissolve in a second. And they still keep showing up. So it's like, okay, cool, just go with that for now. Maybe tomorrow it changes. Maybe tomorrow, like this principle of the now just disappears. And who knows? Who knows? It's always unfolding. But it comes back to this sense of like, what's actually going on in our direct reality? Like, I did not know what I was going to say in this podcast. I still don't know what I'm going to say now and now and now, right? And neither do you, and neither does anyone else. It's actually like perpetually a mystery that we don't know how it's going to unfold in the next second. But there's a little part of our mind going, nah, but I'm pretty sure it's like this and this and that. And, people go to war over that, over a conclusion. And so it seems to me like to be on the same page as reality, you need to be constantly in touch with this like unknown that's like right at the precipice of everything and right at the edge of everything as well. There's just like unknown everywhere. It's like no matter where I look, it's unknown above, unknown below, left and right, forward and back, inside and outside. Like, should I even talk about it? Like, I don't know. I seem to be. Sometimes I don't feel like it, but it's like it's just how it shapes up. So yeah, that's how I see non-duality and the more I lean into that, the more it's like there's little bits of the mind buying, oh, maybe if you lean into this, the non-dual experiences will happen that, they talk about in the textbooks. Is like, nah, it's just life's been really reasonably plain still, but that's okay. That's more and more okay every day. Like the more I build this relationship with this changeless now thing, um, it's just like it'll shape up however it wants. And from a relative perspective, I've now become interested in how I, as in like the local mind, small Craig, individual I, can relate to that context better. Like that's what my practice has become about. How can I build a better relationship with my direct reality, however it shows up at this point in time? And there's definitely a sense of like a linearity to that. Like there's steps to that, and it can go better and it can go worse. But every time it like crashes and burns, they're almost like the biggest reminders of like, oh, it's still now and there's still awareness. Like, okay, cool. It's just being aware of this like crash and burn. And it doesn't mean from a relative perspective, I don't got to get up and go, oops, sorry, people, I made a big mess and apologize and make amends in a relative level. But it does give a sense of like almost like however it shapes up is worthwhile. There's like a reality's worthy in all of its shapes. And that brings a lightness to the day-to-day life and a sense of acceptance to what is and so on.
That's awesome. As you're saying those last few words, sort of my perception shifting between it seems like my projection of you and then something less specific to put
Yeah,
words on
nice.
it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
has
and there's
anything,
layers to it.
yeah, right. Has anything dropped out of your life since you've sort of been getting into this? Like you mentioned, oh, you just find yourself, you're still doing your practice, your Qi Gong or Tai Chi or whichever it is. Has anything dropped?
Yeah, like the main thing that dropped out is like the feral kind of like can't go a single day without training because then there was like a sense of like you won't be worthwhile if you don't keep
Mm,
progressing your training.
okay.
And that just like dissolved completely. So some days I don't train, some days I train 4 hours or more. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's mostly irrelevant to me now.
Yeah.
Because on the days I don't train, what I'm doing is connecting to whatever is happening. It might be like hanging out with my wife or my family or traveling or whatever I'm doing. It's just like that. If reality wants to shape up like that, that's totally fine too. It's also a valid expression of now. And so I started to notice that practice wasn't a pathway to reality. It's
Hmm.
not a thing that gets you to reality. It's just an expression of reality, one of many. So is like sitting here talking to you guys on a screen, and so is watching a show on Netflix, and so is like prepping dinner. They're all like valid expressions of reality, right? So it kind of like equalizes experience where spiritual experience, like I just lost all of this need to have fancy experiences. There was like, I didn't realize how much there was like a charge in my system to like go train with someone because surely then I can have this like whatever non-dual experience that people talk about.
Yeah.
And it just like that just dissolved. Like if it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, cool too. I'll just relate to whatever's showing up, not what I think should show up. Um,
Yeah.
so
It
so
seemed like a
that was
huge
like a
burden to
load.
hold on to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally a huge burden. And
Yeah.
it's just like there's a not it's like carefreeness of how it unfolds. It'll unfold how it does, but I still have a sense of attending to the process of unfolding,
Hmm.
right? Like attending to the now as it's shaping up and noticing that, when I do certain things in my life, like indulge in certain habits, that definitely cuts me off from that remembering in a very clear way. And then I'm like, ooh, and then I'm back and it's like, oh, right, it's now, and now it's just shaping up as this. And that has this sense of like, it was okay that it shaped up as that unconsciousness from an absolute level, but from a relative level, I'd really like to get better at that. And so that like
Yeah.
longing kind of longs up, like, how can I improve that habit? How can I like not be as much of an idiot next time? Um, still shows up and there's still a move to like constantly deepen it and constantly improve relationships with now because it also feels like those moments like a not good relationship with now. It's like all those moments like forgot about this changeless
Mm.
now within which they were happening. They forgot their context. And so it like becomes more about remembering and reminding than about achieving anything in particular.
Yes. Boom. Amazing. We have this thing where at the end of the podcast, we ask a question that the last guest at the end of the podcast
Nice.
asked, and then we get you to ask a question. But we
Sweet.
actually forgot to ask the question last time. So I was just thinking then, maybe we can ask on their behalf, since it's kind of in your field.
Mhm.
Maybe we can put the question, what is Qi, Craig Mallet?
Ah, nice. The sincere answer is I don't know. Lots of people use that word with seemingly like they have their own definition of what it means, and I don't think there's like an absolute correct definition somewhere. Um, so I think it's more useful to talk to who you're talking to and get on their page about it when they use that word. That's a much more useful endeavor than like trying to come up with the one true definition. But for me, for my purposes, for what I'm doing, Qi to me talks about the relational connection between yin and yang. Then, from what we were talking about, you have like the changeless and all the changing stuff. When you ask that changing stuff, how does it relate to the changeless and how does the changeless relate back to it? It kind of seems to make a connection between the nothing and the something. There's like a little bridge that gets formed that's like powering the change with nothingness. And like chi as a measurement, I would say is like how many of those bridges have you formed between what's going on and the nothing for you. So it seems like the more these parts of changing stuff remember that they are inherently an expression of the changeless, that like creates a little bridge and it feels like there's more chi, there's more energy, there's more vitality in the system, there's more availability to do anything.
Nice.
That's
That
that's
was
that's how I see it. So yeah, relationship between yin and yang, between this and that.
amazing. Um, would you like to think of a question to ask the next person?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, would you still enjoy your life if you didn't accomplish any of the things you think you need to accomplish?
Damn.
Keep it hard and juicy.
I
Go for it. Yeah.
like it. Very much within the theme of today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll keep it kind of on point.
Amazing. Thank you, dude. This was awesome.
You're very welcome. It was cool to connect and looking forward to seeing the finished product. And yeah, let me know if you want to chat again about any of the other topics I do because there's more than just non-duality. There's all the relative dual stuff that I do as well.
Definitely got lots more questions. Even though I've trained with you, got heaps of questions just from that
Yeah.
and then every
Yeah,
other
sweet.
topic. So that sounds good. Did you
Sweet.
want to like tell people about where they can find you and any
Oh,
stuff you got going
sure.
on?
Yeah, yeah. So at the time of recording anyway, I am kind of operating mostly out of my website, which is craigmallet.com. Um, I do mentorship, so like one-to-one training with people. I sell a bunch of online courses, mostly about the body at this point in time, but there is one non-dual course there at present, and there will probably be some more elaborate divings into that. I also teach workshops and classes around the place, online and in person. So there's plenty of stuff happening. If you go on my website, it's all there. I have my own podcast, which is been a fun little project, getting all sorts of weird and wonderful guests on, not unlike you guys. And then yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm always happy to geek out about this stuff and chit chat. So if anyone wants to reach out, just go on my website. There's a contact page, shoot me an email, whatever. I'll I'm happy to chat and happy to talk shop.
Boom. Thank you, consciousness.
Thank you, gentlemen. Lovely to see you.
Thank you
Yeah,
now.
please stay in touch, and I look forward to seeing you guys more.